Okay, how to use your cheap Harbor Freight multimeter. So your multimeter comes with the meter and a set of probes. And you get a red and a black one. In traditional DC circuits, red is positive and black is negative or ground. You have 3 holes on your meter, so when you start hooking up your probes, your black wire always goes to the one labeled common, which is this one right here. COM is short for common. And then you want to measure, for beginners, you always want to put it in this hole, which measures, you can see it says V, omega, and milliamps. MA, milliamps. Omega is for ohms, or resistance. But we want to start with voltage. So you turn your meter on. Many different companies make this exact same meter, and some of them have the you turn the wheel to turn it on and off, but this particular one has the switch down here on the bottom. If we want to measure AC voltage, put it into this range right here, 250, ACV 250. You can also put it in ACV 200, but ACV 250 is going to be probably the better option, because otherwise you get a decimal point in this one. This is just to tell you what voltage you're reading. So if you plug this into a socket, it's going to tell you, you know, what your voltage is. If we want to measure DC voltage, we go here into this range, and you always start at the highest range. So 250 is where we would start, and then you just go down in ranges until you have the right measurement you want. The M here is for millivolts, so less than a volt. Now this meter can also measure amps or current, but I wouldn't really unless you're not going to measure current, unless you're you know, an actual professional. So I would not worry about the current range. You also have that's for the milliamp range. This is another range. The like amp range. This one is milliamps. HFE is not something you will use. That's a transistor tester. They're useless for engineers who actually do work with transistors. This is diode check. So this is another good one. If you're testing an LED, this is a great range to use. But the other thing that this is good for is, you see we have just a 1 there when the probes are not touching. But if we touch the probes together, we have 0, which tells you that there's a connection in between two things. There's a shorted connection in between two things. You could also use resistance for that, which is this one right here. Touch those together, and the resistance of our probes is about 0.9 ohms. So there you go. That's how to use your cheap meter. I also do not recommend keeping your probes in the meter if you can refrain from it, just because these tend to snap off. Here's a couple practical uses for your multimeter. So if you want to test if an outlet still has voltage, these two are the ones that are actually going to have your potential. So this is your live and this is your neutral. As you can see, we have 121 volts there. That's what we should have, 120. Between 117 and 125 volts is what we want. Another good use for it is testing to see, is this switch still working? So we put the meter I'll put it into resistance. And it's a little hard to do one-handed, but we'll stick one in there and one in there. Oop. You can also use this to test and see if is the switch still working, or what position it's in. Right now we're obviously in the off position, but if I switch it, you saw the numbers. It's kind of hard to do this. It's extremely difficult to do this one-handed. Sorry. But there you go. We have a connection. It's just going all over the place because I'm doing this one-handed and the probes are not on the connections very well. Another good use is, say you have an extension cord and you want to know if there's a break in the extension cord, or you suspect that there's a break in it. You can hook one end up, plug it in like so, and then you take the other end and you touch it to the other side and figure out if you still have a connection. We have a connection, which means that that wire is good. You could test the other 3 as well and tell if you have or the other 2, and tell if you got a break in the connection. There you go.